Planes. Multiverse.
And of course, this is water too when fired into compact groups, but it has its specific benefits that make up for the damage loss. The projectile has a bigger hit. Tries and fails to make the demo an offensive threat, the stock sticky launcher can actually work. It's demo's best crowd control secondary, and still maintains the ability to easily one-shot groups of Uber medics. And its faster bomb explosion time makes it more adaptable and easy to set up on-the-fly sticky traps with. In my opinion, it's the best training wheels for learning how to play demo in MBM. Its only weakness is that it doesn't have the insane burst damage that the best sticky launcher has, but for how versatile the stock is, I think A tier is a fair spot. This one might come as a shock to many of you, considering you don't really see the Islander used that much. But after really spending some time with it, I'm at the point where I believe that this is, without a doubt, demo's best melee. Not just for demo night, but for standard demo as well. Sure, you start off with less health, and don't have the fast switch speed of the bottle, but as is a running theme throughout these tier lists, speed is king. Speed lets you move up faster. Speed lets you avoid projectiles. Speed lets you retreat. And this weapon with 4 heads allows you to move almost as fast as a scout, with more health than a stock soldier. It goes without saying that getting these 4 heads is easy with demo night, but it's also very easy with standard demo too. So I still don't understand why this weapon isn't used that much. Small stray robots, spies, snipers, they are the fuel that can get you topped off just on your first wave. Its only real problem is that refunding upgrades and switching classes to get to spawn faster reset your head count. But as a demo, your upgrades are pretty uniform to every single wave across a single mission. So this doesn't really come into effect at high level as much as you might think. If you don't use the Islander, you should really try it out, because I promise you, it's worth it. Okay, let's get the obvious out of the way. The Iron Bomber has a 15% explosion radius penalty. The question is, do I believe that the other benefits outweigh that downside? And obviously it's an S tier, so you know where I stand on that. The Iron Bomber's splash damage will probably miss a robot or two when fired into compact groups, but it has its specific benefits that make up for the damage loss. The projectile has a bigger hitbox, allowing you to hit more shots. You can bomb jump more consistently, letting you get to where you need to be with less hassle, and the biggest benefit of how little the bombs actually roll. A lot of people have claimed that this doesn't matter in a game mode where your enemies move predictably and are easy to hit, but I just completely disagree. Robots will die before your projectile hits them. Robots will occasionally move sporadically, and we're all human and sometimes we just miss. The Iron Bomber grenades, having very little bounce and roll, along with it detonating 30% faster than the stock pipes, means you will usually get the residual damage for every shot missed, where you wouldn't with any other grenade launcher. And that's why I think the Iron Bomber slightly edges out the stock. And now for the big one. The holy grail of all of Demo's weapons, and quite frankly, all MBM weapons. The Scottish Resistance. So let me start off by saying that you need to know a lot about how waves work to get the full use from the Scottish Resistance. Without proper planning, that extra second it takes to detonate each sticky bomb will make this weapon feel pretty limiting, and that's what makes it not as good as the stock sticky launcher for crowd control. But what it has over stock is the single greatest amount of potential burst damage in the entire game. 2 words: crit stickies. 14 of them. This allows the demo man to literally one-shot any non-boss giant in the entire game, as long as you have a Kritzkrieg Ubercharge or a Crit Canteen. And when you have each wave memorized, you single-handedly carry your entire team. And if you have a medic who regularly farms Uber, carry your entire Kritzkrieg Ubercharge or a Crit Canteen. And when you have each wave memorized, you single-handedly carry your entire team. And when you have each wave memorized, entire game. 2 words: crit stickies. In the entire game. 2 words: control. But what it has over stock is the single greatest amount of potential burst damage in the entire game. 2 words: crit stickies. 14 of them. This allows the demo man to literally one-shot any non-boss giant in the entire game, as long as you have a Kritzkrieg Ubercharge or a Crit Canteen. And when you have each wave memorized, you single-handedly carry your entire team. And if you have a medic who regularly farms Uber off of Sentry Busters, or an NG who buys 2-way telly early for you, there is no limit to just how unbelievably unstoppable you can be with your endless traps of crit stickies. Not only is the Scottish Resistance by far Demo's best weapon, there is an argument for it being the single greatest weapon in the entirety of MBM. And once mastered, those damage screenshots at the end will look so good. But you know what else feels good? Subscribing to the channel and liking the video. So there's that too. And for the first weapon in A tier, we have some people believe the good weapon for more. Well, the Quickie Bomb Launcher tries. This thing is complete obvious hatred of any health on kill upgrades, which makes it the second best sword for the demo subclass. The Loose Cannon is a strange case, considering my obvious hatred of knockback-based weapons. But here's why it skirts that narrative a little bit. So, for damage, this thing is complete trash for demo. Let's get that straight. Even the lock and load will do more damage on average. Pushing robots back does nothing but fuck up everybody else's aim, as usual. That is, when they're killable. Because the Loose Cannon has the unique ability to knock back giants that haven't even dropped from the ledge, this makes Demo able to shoot giants before they land, where they can stack on top of each other and have them all simultaneously fall onto one crit sticky pile, where with every other primary, Demo would have to lay down more than one trap. You see this used a lot on Empire, with Fist of Steel heavies, the Black Box Soldiers, and the Health on Kill heavies on the later waves. So generally the Loose Cannon is shit, but it has such a powerful use in some situations that I can't put it any lower than B tier. It also has the benefit of cannon jumping being slightly more consistent than bomb jumps, so there's that too. And for the first weapon in A tier,
Planes. Multiverses.
what are heavies as well? The eviction notice is good because you move 50. Jumping straight into S tier, we have the Guru. This is no surprise if you've seen the other tier lists, because with the buffalo steak sandwich of a medium medkit, and is time we have the sandwich. Most underrated weapon. Due to the heavy position yourself, highest damage output of any minigun, and it's incredibly honestly, I think this might be heavy speed when revved up potential. 20% more damage in every situation is so good, and my pick for the best minigun in the game is because of this thing's damage potential. 20% more damage in every situation is an insane increase for a class that nerfs. It's the only minigun in the game without any other minigun money, but tile is stock and faster in the context of typically too far to set them on fire. But on giants, this thing does have enough time to set them on fire and get that increased deep at the best. So as I mentioned, the buffalo steak is versatile, taking 40% less damage while in the line choice coming up. The Fists of Steel are a pretty useful weapon, but they're not all that versatile. Taking 40% less damage while in the line of fire does have its moments, and when you do get hit, you will notice the difference. But generally speaking, as heavy, you want to avoid situations where you could be bursted down if your medic isn't nearby, but if you do find yourself in one, the Fist of Steel will help you survive it. As an on-the-fly escape tool, it has a lot to be desired thanks to its slower pullout time, but it has a purpose, so it's pretty alright. If the Killer Gloves of Boxing had like 2 more extra seconds of crit. Jumping straight into S tier, we have the Guru. This is no surprise if you've seen the other tier lists, because the speed increasing weapons are usually always the best. It helps you reach the front lines quicker, helps you get in position faster, and helps you retreat more safely. As a heavy, you go from the slowest class in the game to average class speed just by bringing this weapon out. And I know the Guru has a health draining mechanic, and so does the Eviction Notice for that matter, but usually getting to where you need to be faster trumps doing so at full health. And that's mostly because a good medic will glue his medigun to your ass the moment you're in sight. The Guru has the most general application of all of Heavy's melees, and therefore I think it is the best. For the best secondary in the game and the single greatest lunchbox item, we have the Sandwich. This weapon has the best primary effect of healing you all the way back to full, and is tied for the best drop effect with the Buffalo Steak Sandwich of a medium medkit for your team. That's really it. It's the best of both worlds for both of its uses, and although it takes longer to reach,
Planes. Multiverse.
what in the entire construction stack with the and again, it almost feels the single greatest DPS against tanks in the primary playing the game, as every single one of their projectiles gets evaporated by the NG simply. Simply pressing the right click button. The amount of incoming fire
Planes. Multiverse.
What are medics better? None of the medics melee weapons come even. Oversaw is by far and away medics, a testament to how close in utility medics prime. Honestly, the Crusaders being an S tier is more of a testament to how close in utility Medic's primaries are in MVM because, honestly, it's not that amazing. You can heal from really long range, so in situations where you're too far for your Medi Beam to reach, it is your best tool, and it can knock out a sniper or two if need be. But despite its more lackluster utility, I still think it has more general application than any of the needle guns. While the title of Best Primary doesn't really hold any weight, the title of Best Melee certainly does. The Ubersaw is by far and away Medic's best melee weapon. Hell, this thing could have its swing speed nerfed by like 500% and it'd still probably be the best. 4 swings, full Uber, no questions asked. And this is very easy to achieve thanks to Sentry Busters acting as Uber batteries. And that's not even mentioning the Buster glitch in certain spots, which is... What the fuck? This is too many! This is too many! Goddamn Buster! Yeah. Really good. You can even upgrade the swing speed, which gives you full Uber in like 2 seconds. Honestly, this shouldn't even be possible with how much it breaks the game, but then again, this is an upgrade, so what are you gonna do? None of the Medic's melee weapons come even remotely close to the Ubersaw. It's simplicity fucking where's by the... It's for a future video. But wait, don't leave. Tier is more of a test. Played properly, you can build for a crit soul. You're gonna want a decent amount of knowledge of each mission before little bitch, but I personally like to go in with the shield bash medic strat. It you receive in relation to your Uber percent. Alright, I won't be convinced. When used properly, the Vaccinator has the best survivability traits of any medigun, and because of that, it's the go-to option for some medic players when queued into below average teams. With how insane the damage resistance is, combined with the 10% passive mitigation to your selected damage where things do go badly, using an Uber charge while allows for this too, is this reputation waves. The Uber charge also gives you full crit immunity. The Quick Fix has this reputation for being the worst medigun in MVM, and if you use it in the same way you would any other medigun, there's a good argument for that. But I'm here to make it known that with just a little bit of a shift in playstyle, the Quick Fix is not only viable, but in my opinion, probably the most underrated weapon in the entirety, and maintaining maximum damage, generate shields much more frequently than any other medigun. Like, it's not even close. Now you can use them defensively, and the best feature of the thing that no other medigun has is all knockback, which is fantastic for body you become with it. Early wave crits and spy bots are really your only threats. It also allows for instantaneous revives, just like the Vaccinator, and nullifies all knockback, which is fantastic for body blocking and maintaining maximum damage ramp up. All of this with 10% faster Uber generation. Now that's all well and good, but the Quick Fix has something that no other medigun has. 40% faster healing rate. This obviously helps with tanking more damage, getting your teammates back up to full, and generally faster revives, but by far the best feature of that added healing is being able to generate shields much more frequently than any other medigun. Like, it's not even close. Now you can use them defensively and protect your team and, be a little bitch, but I personally like to go in with the shield bash medic strat. It is, surprise, with the Quick Fix, Medic's best melee weapon. Hell, this thing could have its swing speed nerfed by like 5 close to the Ubersaw. The Ubersaw is the game. City is what makes it special. If you could vote on it, I'd
Planes. Multiverses.
What are before rushing in, or jumping into the fray anyways without that added safety net? The big earner mitigates this doesn't really matter in MVM, so a watch that provides multiple benefits outside of just going invisible makes it, well, actually useful. The Dead Ringer is Spy's rechargeable get out of jail free card, with a 75% damage resistance and a 3-second speed boost, allowing Spy to escape all the dangerous situations he'll constantly find himself in. Its only drawback is it can't be used on demand like the other watches, but I'll trade a few seconds of waiting if it means I'm not spending half the wave dead. In Man vs. Machine, it's the beating heart of the Spy. Crits are pretty damn good. You know what makes them even better? When you get them for free. The Diamondback is by far Spy's most powerful revolver, as you effectively receive a 102 damage shot for every single successful backstab kill that you earn. And unlike the Ambassador or the Enforcer, this acts as a very consistent way to pick off not only small bots with low health, but also medium and even full health ones because of just how many crits you have to play with. And even if those situations don't surface as much as you'd like, you could always unload the entire stack on the next tank you come across, which trumps all of your other means of doing damage. So just like in casual, the Diamondback very clearly outshines the rest. I personally believe the Big Earner is Spy's best knife because both of its benefits are incredibly useful inside of MBM. The added speed boost allows you to connect chain stabs more easily, lets you consistently strafe stab around the giants, and aids in pivotal escapes without the use of a Dead Ringer. You can debate the tankiness of the kunai versus the evasiveness of the Big Earner and which one leads to better survivability, but ultimately both are great at keeping you alive. But where the Big Earner outshines the kunai and the other knives is the ability to play more aggressively with less risk. The Spy can oftentimes play too fast for his Dead Ringer to keep up, which requires either waiting for it to recharge before rushing in, or jumping into the fray anyways without that added safety net. The Big Earner mitigates this issue a lot, allowing you to have your Dead Ringer active way more often. And not only that, although I've neglected to mention Money Spy till this point, I think it goes without saying that greater mobility helps a lot on that front. Swear by the kunai all you want, but for me, the Big Earner definitely takes the top spot. And that's it. We're done. We've successfully ranked every single weapon in random crits. There's no way to increase it like the others. But what this weapon lacks in power, it makes up for. The L'Étranger has the worst DPS of any of the revolvers, and discounting random crits, there's no way to increase it like the others. But what this weapon lacks in power, it makes up for in utility. Not necessarily with the 40% extra cloak, but more so with the added cloak per each shot hit. This allows Spy to completely recharge his Dead Ringer, which, spoiler alert, is obviously the best watch. So if you need one in a pinch to get out of a scary situation, this revolver can get you filled up in like 2 seconds. It's not an extremely common application, but when it's needed, you'll be very thankful you have it. This one might actually be a bit controversial because I see a fair bit of people say that the kunai is the best knife. Every single small robot in the game is your own personalized health pack just waiting to be leeched. And with how effective disguises are, you're almost guaranteed to get that overheal. This helps the Spy tank more damage as he goes in for chain stabs in the small window he's able to, and helps retreat with less risk of death when he needs to get out of there. The big drawback of this weapon is you start off with only 70 HP, but in MVM this is hardly a deterrence beyond some occasional unlucky moments. You'll pretty much always get that first stab without issue, and you can usually carry that momentum with you over the course of a game. The only thing really holding this weapon back is that in moments where you don't have the overheal and no small robots are on the field, the kunai leaves you the most vulnerable of any knife in the game because there aren't any opportunities to get that added survivability. But but that's a pretty rare occurrence. In every other situation, it's a great knife. The dead on cooldown, then yes, the knife does burn up as normal, and that can be pretty annoying. You can weigh the pros and cons in whatever way you'd like, but for my money, I'd put it mostly on par with the stock.
Planes. Multiverse.
What are snipers' best and worst weapons in MVM? Well, we're back again to answer, especially with max swing speed, is a surprisingly deadly tank shredder, no flinching when your rifle is fully charged. Unique to him specifically. The knockback reduction when aiming does add to the head count. Only the one target you're actually shooting make it shine. The first being no flinching when your rifle is fully charged. So between packs when you're able to get that unique to him specifically. The knockback reduction when aiming does help, but it's too obvious, and its effects are wholly unique to him specifically. The knockback reduction when aiming does help. The Cozy Camper easily has the most general application of any of Sniper's secondaries, and its effects are wholly unique to him specifically. The knockback reduction when aiming does help, but its two other upsides are what really make it shine. The first being no flinching when your rifle is fully charged. So between packs when you're able to get that full meter, you won't have to worry about stray bullets fucking with your aim. The much bigger factor, however, is the added health regen. Because of Sniper's high aggro, he'll be taking plenty of residual damage over the course of a wave. And rather than constantly be running to healing sources or spending credits on health on kill, the Cozy Camper comes with added survivability baked in. Other secondaries may be more efficient within their specific niches, but when considering the entirety of the game, the Cozy Camper will consistently be your best choice. The Bushwalker can't random crit, and that makes it slightly worse for killing spies. That's literally the only negative I can say about it, because in every other way, it's a massive upgrade. Mini crits are extremely common in MVM, and the Bushwalker turns that 35% damage bonus into 300%. And considering two of Sniper's top 3 secondaries generate them basically for free, it's not like this is a rare occurrence. But the biggest benefit, as I mentioned with the carbine, is the ability to transform the Sniper into a very slashy boy. The Bushwalker in conjunction with the carbine or a soldier's buff banner, especially with max swing speed, is a surprisingly deadly tank shredder and by far his best method of doing so. Sure, it's worse than the stock Kukri at killing spies, but there's no way I can overlook that tank DPS and keep it from the top spot. The Hitman's Heatmaker is broken. Just straight up, the Heatmaker is absolutely, without a doubt, Sniper's best weapon. Sure, you do less damage per body shot, but considering the massive damage boost this weapon provides on headshots, that's a small price to pay. The Heatmaker has an ability called Focus, and it's fucking insane. All it takes is a couple of kills, which is very easy to achieve with Explosive Headshot, and you have a fully charged meter that allows you to continuously fire without having to unscope. Not only does this jack your DPS up the ass, especially on giants, but it makes it way easier to actually land your shots because you don't have to keep adjusting your aim. On top of that, it's not a standard meter depletion like the others. As long as you keep killing shit while using focus, it will continuously recharge itself. This honestly feels like cheating. It's so overpowered to the point where godlike snipers can practically carry entire games with it. To me, it isn't even a question. The Heatmaker is by far one of MVM's most absurdly destructive weapons. And yeah, that's it for the tier list. If nerfs are ever in effect, theory, this weapon may
Planes. Multiverses.
What are Pyro's best and worst weapons in MV slots? Makes it faster to retreat for health. Why it's an S tier weapon. The Power Jack is very easy to understand as to why it's an S tier weapon. It's the only melee weapon for Pyro that transcends a niche use in favor of general utility. 15% extra movement speed whenever you're holding the weapon out does all the good movement speed things. It makes it faster to get back in and fight, makes it faster to get in position for certain robots, makes it faster to retreat for health. Everything you do is faster. And yeah, you take 20% more damage while holding it, but the big weakness of being able to get quickscoped or body shot by a sniper and die doesn't really exist in MVM, so this weakness is much easier to manage. I want you guys to put this thing on and count how many times you'll switch to it during each mission. That number will be more than what you can count on one hand, and that can't be said for any of Pyro's other melees. Okay, weapon. But this is a tier list based in the works. It goes on the ground afterwards, it can be used at long range, it can be used to upgrade it. Beggars, I have a whole image based off of weapons effectiveness. Not fun factor, not health for the game, just purely based on how good the weapon is. And just like the beggars, I have a whole in-depth video on the gas passer in the works. But let's rapid fire some of its best features for the sake of the tier list. It's insanely cheap to upgrade at 400 credits, it one-shots any group of small robots in the game, it lingers on the ground afterwards so even more robots get caught in the blast, it can be used at long range, it can be used at close range, it can kill uber medics, it's unaffected by Fist of Steel heavy resistances, it has a recharge upgrade, it can be farmed off of tanks, and is completely spammable if the Pyro knows where to position himself. That is a lot of benefits. Probably too much. Definitely too much. And I know a lot of people don't like it, but there's no getting around it. Pound for pound, the gas passer demolishes every other secondary with just how potent it really is. And as if we couldn't get any more monkey brain, the best flamethrower in the game is the Flog. Sure, you can't air blast, But as I've mentioned, Air Blast becomes less and less of a benefit the more you learn how to play the game. The Flog has the best sustained DPS versus tanks and giants, and doesn't rely on good team cohesion like the Backburner does in order to receive its crits. This also makes it very good for crowd control, but I think the thing that puts it really over the edge are the Flog cancels. I went over this with the detonator a little bit, but you can effectively get half of a crit and half of an Uber Canteen simultaneously by using the Flog Taunt on a robot's head, which is pretty easy to set up, especially with jump height upgrades. I still think the Backburner has the edge on Manhattan, but I think the benefits of the Flog, especially on Rottenburg, make it the better of the two. And that's it for the tier. In terms of struck the robot's aggro, even though the crits from the back are a little inconsistent, so hard if he can bounce off his team in that fashion. That aspect. Weapon. It's the only for health. Many times you'll switch to it during each mission.
Planes. Multiverse.
Tier as each other, no, this does not make them equally as good. Let's go. So normally I start things off with the D tier, but the rocket jumper is just so much of a meme weapon that it deserves its. Running away is surprisingly one of Soldier's best. The escape plan will very likely save your life at least a couple of times on each mission. On the surface, it might not seem that good, because bullet robots have perfect accuracy and can snipe you from afar while you're marked for death, but you're usually able to work around that through navigating the map's geography and manipulating the robot's aggro to not focus on you. It also allows you to get healed up safely and return back to the fight without having to go through the trouble of dying, respawning, and running back. In my opinion, it's Soldier's second best utility-based melee. Alright, let's get this out of the way. All three banners are very good items. I just think that the Battalions is the most situational, and therefore the weakest. 35% more damage resistance and nullifying critical hits from robots has its moments where it's a fucking guardian angel that saves your entire team. But those moments are few and far between on earlier waves, and on later waves you're usually topped up on resistances and don't need it as much. It's also always worth using if you're doing the 4 soldier strat on Bot Bash, but compared to the other banners, it's just generally not as good. For the second best rocket launcher in the game, we have Soldier's O Reliable, the stock rocket launcher. This weapon just does it all. It has really good damage, really good crowd control, and all of this with 0 and 8 negatives to balance it out. It's really good at every single range in the game, which can't be said for number 1, and is extremely forgiving when you mess up thanks to its untouched splash damage radius. And of course, 1 tick of Rocket Specialist removes all the damage fall off on a direct hit, and helps keep the Super Scouts from getting by with its minor stun. It's extremely consistent, and actually might be the most popular rocket launcher in MVM. It's just not the best. Soldier's melees have gotten a reputation for not being all that important, and while that is still mostly true, after using the whip for a while, I found out you can use it in so many situations during the downtime of some waves. If your rocket launcher is fully loaded and you don't have a banner ready to blow, then you may as well give you and someone on your team a speed boost, because why not? It can give Soldier's rocket jumps more momentum, it lets Heavy get his maximum damage ramp up slightly faster, and if you and a teammate are both working on the tank, the whip can help both of you get back to the front when need be. Its only real issue is that the whip has no situation where it's beneficial just on its own. You need a teammate for it to work. But in MVM, teamwork is the name of the game. Bigger number equals better weapon. it's not necessarily always wrong. The buff banner gives you and all members of your team within range mini crits, a 35% damage bonus to everything. And unlike something like the Fan of War, this can be used to make dealing with clusters of small robots so much easier. It recharges so fast that you can usually fill the bar within just a few seconds worth of DPS, so you'll be pumping your team's numbers all the time. And it's without a doubt the best banner to use on tanks. The only real issue with the buff banner is the same one that most mini crit weapons have, and that being that the constant spam of crit canteens at high levels of play makes the effect kind of obsolete. But at every other level of play, I'm confident with saying that the buff banner is the best secondary. And now we have the secondary that's the best at high level, although it's still very good at low and mid levels as well. Everything about the conch is just so useful. The passive health regen is one thing, but being able to get health back on hit, akin to the Mad Milk, combined with the added speed boost, changes the game for everybody on your team. It lets the heavy do maximum damage ramp up without fear of death, it lets Soldier completely solo some portions of the wave, a la pre-2015 Black Box, and the speed boost allows your entire Soldier completely so useful. The passive health regen is one thing, but being able to get health back on hit, akin to the Mad Milk, combined with the added speed boost, changes the game for everybody on your team. It lets the heavy do maximum damage ramp up without fear of death, it lets Soldier completely solo some portions of the wave, a la pre-2015 Black Box, and the speed boost allows your entire team to avoid projectiles much easier and get back to the front lines much quicker. And of course, this effect isn't invalidated by crit canteens. So its only real downside is that it doesn't really help in dealing damage towards the tank, but that's a small enough sacrifice for all the benefits it gives you and your team. And lastly, we have the Soldier's best rocket launcher, and in fact Soldier's best weapon in the entirety of MVM. There are so many reasons as to why the Beggar's Bazooka is absolutely broken. Too numerous and too intricate to really explain in this video. So I'm mentioning right now that I'm making a whole video dedicated specifically to the Beggar's Bazooka and explaining why it's not only the best rocket launcher, but the best by a significant margin. But to TLDR that video for the tier list's sake, bigger number equals better weapon. And the Beggar's Bazooka has the biggest number of them all, by far, not even close. If you want to be notified as to when the Beggar's Bazooka video comes out, you should subscribe to the channel, and while you're at it, leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. I got a shitload of MVM content coming out that I think you're worth it. The air single greatest burst. It also is a shadow of its former self. Man, that burst is way too good for this thing to be any lower. The Black Box used to be the fucking OG when it was a straight 15 health per each robot hit with your rockets. But now it's capped at only 20, so it's a shadow of its former self. It gives you slightly more survivability in exchange for less sustained DPS due to having one less rocket in the clip, meaning you'll be reloading more often. It's a decent trade and probably will save your life here and there, but man, I remember when you could solo some sections just by using this thing, and now you can't. At the very least, you don't need that much health on kill, if any, and in my opinion, that's what justifies the B tier ranking. And for the third and final rocket launcher in the B tier, we have the Cow Mangler. So this weapon is basically the same as the stock rocket launcher, with one big upside but a few negating factors. And no, that big upside is not the charge shot. It doesn't stack with firing speed upgrades, and the fact it uses your entire clip makes it unbelievably useless. Now, the Cow Mangler's best feature, not needing to rely on ammo. So at the very least, this becomes the best rocket launcher in the game if your team's engineer sucks dick. But then come the nerfs. You become shit at dealing with robot engineers, which sure only matters on a third of the waves, but Soldier is usually the go-to class for taking out robot sentries if they're ever built, and now he won't be able to. But the bigger and more general issue comes in his inability to get crits, not just randomly, but through canteens and the Kritzkrieg as well. This makes it not that good on later waves because you have a lot of extra money to blow on crit canteens, but in most other situations, this, for its non-reliance on ammo, isn't the worst trade in the world. The melee, where its best use is
Planes. Multiverses.
what are Scout's best and worst weapons in MVM? From any smoking, the stock scattergun is a very, very good weapon for it to be the meta. For some reason, the stock scattergun has gotten a reputation for being not that good in MVM. I don't know what these people are smoking. The stock scattergun is a very, very good weapon. It has the highest clip size of every scattergun, it's extreme, and it holds its own very well against small and mid-sized robots. The biggest issue with stock is its sustained DPS is pretty lackluster compared to the other options, mostly due to the fact that it doesn't have an instant reload like some of Scout's other primaries, so you need to invest some credits in reload speed to even make it viable for damage. But that's a hurdle, you get over it, and when you do, it's a very good weapon. The reason why the shortstop is so high on this list is because of its potential, plain and simple. This is the best scattergun for mid-range in the entire game, so being able to play at a slightly longer distance without a big DPS loss is very good. Like the double barrel guns, it reloads all of its shots at once, but unlike those scatter guns, it has 4 shots in the clip. This means that clip size upgrades are even more impactful, and couple that with firing speed upgrades, the shortstop has the single best late game sustained DPS of any of the scatter guns, making it an amazing giant killer and tank buster. But although it's phenomenal in the late game, it won't be until the later waves where you have the credit investments to make this thing worthwhile. And that's why it's not meta. It's worse than the stock scattergun on early waves, but better on later ones, so I think it sits in the same tier. For Scout's best melee, we have the Fan O' War, and it's pretty straightforward as to why. Mark for Death is the best utility in Scout's arsenal, and this is the only weapon in the game to have it for free. It gives mini crits to your entire team against any giants who get hit with this thing one time. And yeah, I know the effects of mini crits become less of a concern the higher your team's overall skill is, but even on high level teams, I still think it's the best. It's the cheapest and most consistent option in Scout's kits to apply the effect, and for that reason, it's very clearly number 1. For the best secondary, we have the Mad Milk. Honestly, this weapon is just absolutely fucking insane with how many support uses it has. By throwing it at a robot, preferably a giant, your entire team gets 60% of their DPS restored as health. This makes classes like Maximum Ramp Up Heavy or a Pyro with his on-demand crits nearly impenetrable, as the Mad Milk will quickly out-heal the robot's maximum damage output, a feat that sometimes a medi gun can't even accomplish. That on its own is good enough, but for some reason they decided to give the Mad Milk a slow upgrade for the incredibly cheap cost of 200 credits, and holy shit is it ever worth it. You can slow Super Scouts to make sure they don't cap the bomb, slow Fist of Steel Heavies to make sure they don't cap the gate, slow Sentry Busters so your medic can farm Uber off of them in a much easier and faster way. It's probably the single most useful utility item in the entirety of MVM, and for that reason, it easily takes the top spot. And for the best scattergun in the game by a significant margin, we have the Soda Popper. This weapon just has everything you want in a primary for Scout, and it becomes more and more clear just how good this thing is the more you use it. Because it reloads all of its shots at once and has an already fast firing speed, you only really have to upgrade the damage and clip size of the gun, allowing the Soda Popper to hit its maximum potential very early. You can also use an exploit to upgrade the gun's firing speed despite the fact that there's no option for it, but I'll cover that another time. Point being, this weapon is the single best DPS weapon for Scout in the game on the vast majority of waves. Now, that alone would make it the best scattergun, but I haven't even talked about this weapon's signature ability. By dealing damage, you generate your hype meter, which when filled allows the Scout to jump 5 times, all of which stack with the jump height upgrade. This allows Scout to jump all the way from the floor to the catwalk on Manhattan, and you can act as a complete counter to swarms of projectiles flying at your team, since you can take aggro and force the robots to aim upwards at you. My point is, if you're playing MVM and you're using any other scattergun besides the soda popper, you're doing it wrong. And that's it for the Scout tier list.
Let's do it! Yes!
Let us dance!
I'm fond of this one. Woohoo! Prepare for your examination.
Come on! Conga? Oh, hell yeah! Got a bucket. Hey, yeah! Hey, yeah! Woohoo! Got a bucket of chick. Got a bucket of chick. Primitive! Yeah! Let's go! Hey, yeah! Are those Latin rhythms? Yeah! Got a bucket of chicken. Let's do this.
I haven't got all day. Wee. Wee. Metal, let's go. Booyah. Conga. Give 'em hell, boys. We. Let's go. Metal, I'm about to. We. Give 'em hell, boys. Oh, yeah. Let's throw down. Give 'em hell, boys. Come on, maggots. We give 'em hell. Medals for everyone. We conquer you. Let's go. We give 'em hell, boy. Let's go. We medals for everyone. Get into it. Who wants some?
Hey, yeah. Oh, man. Got a bucket of chicken. Got a bucket of chicken. Got a bucket of chicken. Oh, man. Hey, got a bucket of... Yeah! Let's do it! Got a bucket of chicken. Hey, come on! Oh, yeah! Conga times! Oh! Hey, yeah!
I'm dizzy. Conga, conga, conga. Ah! Oh, I'm dizzy. Ah! It's the... Oh, must be... Ah! Oh, I'm dizzy. Ah! What manner of... I'm dizzy. Come on! Conga, conga, conga. Aye! Oh! Whoa! Ah! Whoa! Ah! 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 Conga! Ah! Hey! Ah! Heavy cannot believe eyes! Ha ha! I am in... Keep dancing, babies! Oh, mother! Go! Heavy is ready. Ah, yeah! Ha ha ha! Let us dance! Heavy, show you. Very good. It's conga time, babies. Keep dancing, baby. Oh, ho, ho, conga. Ah! Giddy up. Come on. Come on now. Come on now. Giddy up. Cowboy up. Oh. Come on now. Heck yes. Giddy up. Come on now. Come on now. Yeah. Cowboy up! Come on! Giddy up! Heck yeah! Woo! Yeah, yeah. Come on now. My professional prognosis? My professional jawohl. My professional diagnosis? Prognosis? My professional diagnosis? My yes! Come on, you pikers! Let's go! Yeah, look at me go! All right, you wankers! Okay, mate. Let's play. Let's make some blood. Let's do this. All right, you headshot. All right. Let's go. Let's make some bloody. Let's. Okay, mate. still. Woo-hoo! Ha ha ha!
Ah! Let us dance, gentlemen! Dance like... Slap my hand. Dancing! It is the forbidden dance! Slap my hand. Ha 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 ha! Oh, c'est magnifique! Watch and learn. La jetée! I fly. Ha 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 ha! I teach. La jetée! Watch and learn! Ha ha! Slap my hand. I take to the air. I fly. Slap my hand.